Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody.
Hari Om Swamiji. Namaskaram Swamiji.
Namaskaram.
Hari Om Swamiji. Hari Om Swamiji. Hari Om Swamiji.
Yeah.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Yes, yes, Hari Om. Before we take up, we would like to share some words of Papa. As soon as he came back from his global tour and completed the book World is God, at the end of it he made these observations. God, who truly inspired Ramdas with the idea of starting the tour, is responsible for every act of Ramdas, small or big. We are trying to understand in IQG and World is God, that book. Same thing, even after this was done in 1954-55 period. After 30 years of how steady he has been, how rooted he has been, how well based he has been, that we can see. Throughout the entire tour, Ramdas felt at every step that his great master Ram was guiding and determining all circumstances and events in his itinerary. Ram, who controls the destiny of all lives, was here mysteriously at work. In fact, carried them out himself with alertness, skill, and care. Suppose the same thing, we are, suppose we look back to the IQ episodes. Once again, we will read. Throughout the entire tour, Ram, that is great master Ram, was guiding and determining all circumstances and events in his itinerary. Ram, who controls the destiny of all lives, was here mysteriously in detail and carried them out himself with alertness, skill, and care. Thus played two parts in discharging the great mission with which God entrusted him. Firstly, as an eternal witness of the world around, a witness who was dispassionate, unaffected, blissful. Secondly, as an actor on the world stage, who performed his role as a love and service in the country visited. In playing both these parts, as witness and an actor, Ramdas was under the dominating sway and protection of his Almighty Ram. Ramdas, being one with Ram, knew he was everybody and everything for the realization that he, Ramdas, and the world are not different. As power, God prompts and propels all beings and creatures to action. As the static spirit, he witnesses and sanctions all movements in nature, himself remaining ever still, calm, radiant, the support and the illuminator of the visible and the manifest world. The wheel of evolution is moving, producing changes, particularly in the affairs of men all over the world. Without such far-reaching changes, man cannot progress towards his destiny. Humanity has been groping in the dark to find a way out into the open light of freedom and peace from the congested, narrow, darkened prison house of its own making. The cosmos is like a sea, agitated by storms and cyclones, causing huge waves to rise and fall, bringing about tremendous movements in the ascending and descending scale, one creative, another destructive. A short period of harmony, peace, and balance and equipoise is succeeded by an equally short period of conflict and chaos. It is perfectly clear to a purified vision that all these gigantic changes in the course of evolution are going on so that mankind may, through these contrary processes, ultimately fulfill its highest spiritual destiny. For, as in the case of individuals, the human race as a whole also must march to its goal only through the play of opposite forces and attain inner peace and equilibrium. So here the point is, even after 35 years, the same language, the same tone, the same approach, that he was guiding him, protecting him. And Papa was able to maintain the equanimity at all places because the twin roles God made him to. One is the static aspect, where he remains unaffected by anything that is happening. And in the second, he was an actor by himself, carrying out as the director from within prompts him to do it. This also we should bear in mind at the time of inquest of God, in-depth study. Another thing which we have read, it is better to again remind us of that. There are only two things for him. One is his Ram, and the other is Ramdas, a sprout from Ram. Ram, the static and the dynamic world, all the manifested world, and Ramdas has the sense of individuality. Nothing else. We are all finding it difficult to travel with him because this is not yet clear to us. Varied experiences, varied situations, He was able to attribute everything to Ram. We are seeing it as independent. Everything is independent in nature. The common thread is not felt by us. So just like in beloved Papa's life, Ram kindled in his life, Ram kindled in his heart a keen desire to realize his infinite. We, his devotees, were also prompted by him to take up an in-depth study of IQG from the 27th December 2021. We were blessed to become aware of the various dimensions from the book, which were not known to us till then. through our 1 hour Satsang session via Google every day and weekly exposure through 10 minutes of video from January to May this year. He also made us to think that while he took only 2 years to scale the heights, we who have been associating with Beloved Papa's teachings for the past so many decades, we could not move nearer to the goal yet. This makes us to think, to identify the areas where we have to improve. What are they? See, for the past 3-4 days, he has been injecting to us, as it were, no? Think, go deep down. Previously, when we were reading In Quest of God, especially the first article, we were not giving importance for the 2 years. We were concentrating on all other things. But now for the past 2-3 days, he doesn't allow us to move away from it. It was about 2 years ago, in 1920, that Ram first kindled in the heart of his humble slave Ramdas. And we all know in 27th December, God made him to take the final plunge. And what we have been doing? 2 years. We also look at Mataji's. She joined Papa in 1928, and in 1930, 1931, Mataji could scale the heights. In fact, when Papa initiated her into the intense inward journey, she did not want to come back at all. Then Papa said it doesn't become complete unless you come back and see his Saguna aspect. Otherwise it will be one-sided. That prompted her to come back and become the mother of all. So as far as Papa and Mataji are concerned now, we are now almost clear that their period of intense sadhana, right from the moment they were touched and kindled, right up to the stage of scaling the heights, they took only 2 years. And we now understand why Mataji was always, restless. Whenever she finds that nobody makes serious spiritual progress, in spite of all that is necessary has been facilitated by Papa. We just took it, that's all. Because Mataji, she will accommodate us in spite of all our limitations. So we did not take it seriously, even when she said that. Many, not once or twice or thrice. This aspect, these 2 years, and then how many years of our association with him. So that is why this is said, just like in Beloved Papa's life now, in Papa's case, Ram kindled in his heart a keen desire to realize his infinite love. We, his devotees, were also prompted by him to take up the in-depth study of IQG from 27th December 2021. Yes, that much we are all blessed. Because normally a centenary will be celebrated, that's all. There will be some function, somebody will be talking, there ends the matter. But here, no. It is a unique celebration, 1 year long, and individual sadhana. You can also say collective sadhana, but more thrust is given for individual sadhana. In-depth study of IQG means individual sadhana. And then the collective sadhana is there where we share all these thoughts. This is something unique which he blessed us with. So we are deeply grateful. Otherwise, we would not have been able to dig out so many things. We never knew that she wanted this 11 times only because she took us to read 11 times so that we will get a glimpse of the nirguna aspect. We never knew that. Now we know, yeah. Ram stands for the nirguna nirakara tattvam. He is birthless and deathless, so he can't be limited to any form, name, place, time. So it is purely nirguna. This is what Mataji has been telling us, but it did not strike to us. Like that, so many things have been unearthed now. So while we are making an attempt to identify the areas where we have to improve, we are also equally conscious of the fact that what all have been touched and kindled and brought to our notice. Some thoughts. So just like in Papa's life, Ram kindled in his heart a keen desire to realize his infinite love, we, his devotees, were also prompted by him to take up an in-depth study of IQG from 27th December 2021. We were blessed to become aware of the various dimensions from the book, which were not known to us till then. Through our 1-hour Satsang session via Google every day and weekly exposure through 10 minutes of video session from January to May this year. He also made us to think that while it took only 2 years for him to scale the heights, we who have been associating with the Lord Papa's teachings for the past so many decades, we could not move nearer to the goal yet. This makes us to think, to identify the areas where we have to improve. What are they? We are still in the process, but whatever that has come to us, we will again put it here. First and foremost factor in spiritual progress is to become aware of His grace. Because that is the first word he used. He used this word, Ram first kindled in the heart of Ramdas. It is not that I developed, I developed a keen aspiration to realize God. No. Ram first kindled. It is purely His grace. Grace gives you awakening. Papa says all these words. But realization does not come at once. Before fully realizing God, He makes you do severe sadhana. Others may think you are suffering, but the sadhana gives you joy. Though it gives you joy, still it is called sadhana. When Ramdas started on his first pilgrimage, he felt God had possessed him. People asked him why he had to go. Ramdas only knew it was all God's will. When this consciousness fully dawns in you, the grace has descended on you in all its fullness, and you begin to feel that you are nothing and God is everything. This supreme state can be got through God's grace alone. Since we do not know that divine grace is working through us, and we think that we are doing everything ourselves, all our actions, thoughts and feelings get vitiated. When we root out the ego sense and God's light and power flow in us, we become conscious that the divine power is responsible for all our movements and actions. So the first and foremost thing is to become aware of the grace. Because grace is always poured on us. Because of me and mine, we are unaware of the grace. So the first step is to become aware of the grace. Just like, in 2021, probably we don't exactly remember the month. Definitely it must be May, June or July, we don't know. I think May, June. When somebody asked us whether it was an auto, that also we don't remember. What are we going to do during the 2022 period? Immediately, it was a question that welled up. In the shortest possible time, he gave us a rough cut of the plan he has through us. That first we said, we will give 1,000 books to people who are 1,000 books of Inquest of God to people who don't have. Yes, that was the initial reaction he made us to bring it out. Because Inquest of God is the one which details about the greatest plunge in 1921. And then afterwards what? So whether we should order for more printing, whether in which language. Then suddenly, the idea came, we will have, if 1,000 people have to receive it, how will they come to know? Anandashram it has no missionary set up as such. So then friends were contacted. They were also encouraged. They were also enthusiastic. And they in turn contacted so many people. And if we remember right, more than 2,000 books have been supplied. That was the first step. Then again, we were not very clear. Then the thought came, we should dwell upon it in detail. We will have a function on 27th December. Then we requested, when we are seriously thinking, we have not even written a letter. Param Pujya Swami Padmanabhanji Maharaj, who has great love for us, for ashram, he said, I am going in December. I don't need any invitation from Anandashram. Then immediately we sent a letter. That also he has not received. Swamiji doesn't stand on any formalities. He said, I am coming. So it was a wonderful, wonderful blessing. We thought, this is how he makes. So 27th December, we will have, Corona has not left fully. So we were not sure whether we can have Ramnam meet. As usual, the Akhanda Ramnam. Followed by a session on 27th December. But somehow, when we wrote, people started responding. And more than 500 people responded that they would be coming. Though there were some last minute cancellations because of COVID. Either some of them are affected or some of them could not move from their place, or some statutory, RT-PCR, this and that. Somehow, ultimately 350, 375 to 400 people were here. And we had a thrilling Akhanda Ramnam session. Every day we used to have Satsang. Luckily, Prahlad Tippaniyaji, he volunteered to come, though it was in Hindi. Everybody enthusiastically participated, some of them with the translation from one of the team group. We were able to understand also. It was overflowing with bhakti. And then Swamiji came, and Swamiji gave a wonderful inaugural speech. Many dimensions which we were not known, that started revealing through Swamiji. And then to keep up the tempo, all those things followed. Now we look back, the Then Swamiji said, it's wonderful that you have an in-depth study for 1 year. There is no celebrations. And then we wrote to some Swamis, Mahatmas, to give us their message, starting from Tejomayanji Maharaj, Gautamanji Maharaj, and then
Muralidhar Swami.
We have got Muralidhar Swami and Devaki Amma. Like that, we identified about 10 or 15 people, and many of them have responded. So every month the idea was, with the blessings of Mahatmas, we will carry on with this in-depth study. Nowadays, to bring them or for them to come here and spend a day for us, they have to travel. So instead of that, a 10-minute video, that is also now being played every month religiously. And then the program started. So the grace, why we remembered all those things, we should become aware of the grace. It is not that we arranged. It is not that it struck to us originally. But once we he made somebody to ask, and that's immediately these 1,000 books, it triggered a series of initiatives from the side of devotees and from the ashram. And then finally, it took a shape. By December, it took a shape. And in spite of the corona, we were able to launch this 1 year in-depth study.
Something Martin the Cobbler was outstanding at that time. Martin the Cobbler.
Vivekananda ji, can you please repeat it?
Martin the Cobbler.
That was so many things. So many things he repeated. The first and foremost thing is, he said, there are 2 types of sannyas. This aspect we never knew at all. And everything comes casually with Swamiji, Swamiji, it doesn't that Swamiji prepares anything. Automatically it comes because of his, God had blessed him with Brahma Vidya and so many years of his seva in Gurudev's ashram. And so everything comes naturally and then spontaneously. So as soon as he started, he said there are 2 types of sannyas. One is a sannyas which you view as a spiritual aspirant to hasten my progress, I take sannyas. The other one is we have already reached, but to officialize it, So in Papa's case, he had already reached the goal, but at the same time to officialize it. Because this name, Swami Ramdas should come, For the rest of the people, Swami Ramdas should come, Otherwise Ramdas only. Papa signs as Ramdas. But for others to know that Swami Ramdas, that's Swami officializing. So it was made clear to us. Like that, so many things on that day he was sharing with us. And that was the starting point of revelation of more and more. Now we look back and see it was nothing but grace and grace and grace alone. So we will read that portion once again. Grace gives you awakening, but realization does not come at once. Before fully realizing God, He makes you do severe sadhana. Others may think you are suffering, but the sadhana gives you joy. Though it gives you joy, still it is called sadhana. When Ramdas started on his first pilgrimage, he felt God possessed him. People asked him why he had to go. Ramdas only knew it was all God's will. When this consciousness fully dawns in you, grace has descended on you in all its fullness. And you begin to feel that you are nothing, God is everything. This supreme state can be got through God's grace alone. So the first primary step. Since we do not know that divine grace is working through us, and we think we are doing everything ourselves, all our actions, thoughts and feelings gets vitiated. When we root out the ego sense and God's light and power flow in us, we become conscious that the divine power is responsible for all our movements and actions. Then, who is Ram? And how Ram guided beloved Papa in his spiritual journey? So he says Ram is a subtle and mysterious power that pervades and sustains the whole universe. Birthless and deathless is he. He is present in all things and in all creatures who only appear as separate entities due to their ever-changing forms. To wake up from the illusion of forms is to realize at once the unity or love of Ram. Love of Ram means love of all beings, all creatures, all things in this world, because Ram is in all is in Ram, Ram is all in all. To realize this great truth, we who through ignorance feel as separate individuals should submit ourselves to the will and working of that infinite power, the infinite love, Ram, who is the one and all-pervading. By a complete surrender to the will of Ram, we lose consciousness of the body, which keeps us aloof from him, and find ourselves in a state of complete identification, union with Ram, who is in us, everywhere around us. In this condition, hatred, which means consciousness of diversity, ceases, and love, consciousness of unity, is realized. The divine love can be attained by humbling ourselves to such a degree as to totally subdue our egoism, our self-assertion as a separate individual existence. Having reached this stage, we by this awakened consciousness of unity or love are naturally prompted to sacrifice all the interest that concerns the body for the welfare of our fellow men and fellow creatures who are all manifestations of the same Ram. Now, when he introduced Ram, Ram is a spirit, and the connection between the spirit and the sense of individuality. That which relates to the spirit and the experience of the spirit is spirituality. Because spirit and matter are two different things. Our body is material and the spirit dwelling in this body is spiritual. So whatever relates to the spirit within us is spiritual. We must think, feel and realize that we are not merely bodies, but we are immortal spirit. It is not so. There is the spirit within us. It is that spirit that makes us walk, talk, do everything. There are so many movements and the changes that are going on within the body, such as the action of the digestive organs, the blood circulation, the growth of the hair. We cannot say these things are done by us. The same power which is responsible for these inner movements is responsible also for our outer movements. We see the wind blow, the sun giving light, the trees grow, the birds sing on the trees, so many movements and changes going round about us. That all-pervading power is that makes so many movements and changes. That all-pervading power it is that makes act, talk, do everything. If we recognize this universal power and know that that power is responsible for what we do, then our ego will disappear and we will be one with the universal life and universal truth, and we will be supremely happy and free. So long as this ego is in us, which makes us that we are everything ourselves, we are caught in a trap. We can never be happy. So we have been asked to resign ourselves to the will of God. Will is nothing but the power of God, active in nature, active in ourselves. By surrendering ourselves to the divine power and will, we will release within us that supreme bliss and peace which is locked up. Through this, the ego and individual will disappears. Really, there is no free will. There is only divine will working everywhere. It is a mistake to think that we have got any power to do anything. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a shloka in which God says, "It is my will and power that prevails through the entire earth. And to know this world means myself, causing all movements in it, all changes in it. And so he is at the inception, at the growth of things, at the destruction of things. It is one power that does all things in the universe. And if we submit to that power and know that the power is active in us, then we will be freed from the ego. And that moment we realize that we are the unchanging, immortal, all-pervading, spiritual, universal truth and spirit. To know that we are that spirit is to know him, God, and that is spirituality. So by giving this word Ram, previously we were not. Our in-depth study has revealed grace. Our in-depth study has revealed Ram. Our in-depth study has revealed what is spirituality. And though Papa has dealt with this vital factor Ram in an article just before starting the chapters of IQG, we were not able to develop a right concept, nor we felt deeply the relevance of knowing Ram seriously. Though we used to read, we never knew the relevance of this dialogue with him. We never felt, anything extraordinary in having this mystic relationship of Papa and Ram. We took it casually, Yesterday evening, when a couple came with a small child, and we were explaining about the vision, mission, and function of this ashram. Today morning, while they were taking prasad, that girl said one, because we mentioned he. So when we say Nirguna Niragara Tattva, it is paradoxical to use the word he or she. So she asked, why are you using the word he? A small girl. So like that, we get clarity. When we Ram, we were telling, that's all. We were reading. We were not applying deeply how often he uses the word Ram. And why he is talking about Ram. And then the constant dialogue with him, reporting to him, referring to him, consulting him. All these things go on, That is the vital aspect. Even if we forget the entire 37 chapters, if we are in a position to retain this, then that is enough for us. The in-depth study has done its job. To know about Ram, to know about the relevance of Ram, to know about the sense of individuality, whether it is independent or whether it is a sprout of Ram. These are the important vital aspects in the in-depth study. It is not by our intellectual conviction we can reach this. It is not by feeling that I have to do this sadhana, then I will reach. No. He rules it out entirely. It is only because of the grace that you are able to do sadhana. So we seek him at every moment, Whenever time permits during our day, we immediately think about the grace, grace, grace. But for you, That's spiritual. Otherwise, I don't exist. I am existing only because of you. I would not have realized this, but I must keep on hammering this truth on my head. Because this is the essential message Papa is conveying through IQG. Right from the first article.
We'll come back. Current. Can continue.
Got disconnected?
No, current. It will come back.
Now connected.
Hari Om.
Ah.
Yes, Swami, there is a break.
Where did we leave?
The first article.
Ah. We never gave much importance for the first article. Not that we did not want to. Somehow it did not strike to us. To be very, very frank, we would not have even gone through that article. We would have gone straight to the first chapter. Because no mention is given about the article in the first chapter.
Swamiji,
Ah.
the difference between ourselves and Papa, that the grace is pouring on him and ourselves are the same, no? Only thing he is aware, he
grace
was aware
pouring
and
on
we are
Papa
not
now
aware.
is the
That's
same.
only
We are not aware. Exactly.
Only that is the difference.
Yeah, only that is the biggest difference.
On him also same, and others also same. But we are not doing. He was doing. That's only difference, Swamiji.
Ah. Grace is pouring on us. We are not aware of it because our sense of individuality does not allow us to become aware of it. We start from ourselves. Whatever said and done, we would have heard in lectures, we would have undergone training, we would have read so many things, we would have done Ramna, but still, God is a separate entity for us. So the moment we say grace, we feel it has to come from outside. Whereas it is purely an internal process. That we come to know only when we take up this in-depth study of IQG.
Swamiji,
Ah.
in which case, even the Nama chanting, we've been given the Nama, that itself is a grace.
Ah.
Because everyone has been given the biological functions and all, that is common denomination.
Ah.
But we've been given extra. that is also a bigger grace.
But we should remember, recognize, We say, I am chanting,
Yeah.
I have to go for chanting. I do this chanting. I have been doing so many malas a month. All these things, vertically it separates you from God. Whereas it is by His prompting we are doing it. But we are not acknowledging it. So grace, it is there, no doubt. Even Ramnam chanting, Papa said, if you think you are chanting, even if you do for 100 years, you will be there where you are. But at the same time, if we feel He is making us to chant, the progress will be fast. This aspect, has been made clear when He took up this index. Now to live up to that, we have to again pray to Him. We can understand it is only by your grace that all these things are happening. But as soon as the session is over, as soon as we are again back to our usual thinking. So kindly enable us to make us aware that we are constantly under your grace. Nothing else we require. In The World is God, just now we read, after he came back. Very, very thought-provoking. He says, God who truly inspired Ramdas with the idea of starting on the tour is responsible for every act of Ramdas, small or big. From the start to the end of the travels, from Bombay to Trichy, Ramdas was afforded a kaleidoscopic view of numerous countries and places in the world throughout the entire tour. Ramdas felt at every step that his great master Ram was guiding and determining all circumstances and events in his itinerary. Ram, who controls the destiny of all lives, was here mysteriously at work. In fact, he made all the plans, looking to the minutest detail, and carried them out himself with alertness, skill, and care. Ramdas played two parts in discharging the great mission with which God entrusted him. Firstly, as an eternal witness for the world drama, a witness who was dispassionate, unaffected, pure, blissful. Secondly, as an actor on the world stage, who performed his role in consonance with the divine initiative and will by spreading the unique message of universal love and service. When we read this portion, the two parts, discharging the great mission, suddenly he made us to think that in the first chapter he brought the word great void. Then he did not touch. When we plunge deep into great void, then only we come to realize that is the eternal witness. The space is the eternal witness. It doesn't get affected at all. Everything happens in the space. The space remains untouched, unaffected by anything that is happening inside. Space everywhere. Now this is a hall, space is there. It does not matter whether somebody cries here, somebody laughs here, somebody is doing bhajan here, somebody is not doing bhajan here. When somebody sits here, the thoughts may be elevating. In others, the thoughts may be disturbing. Space is remaining unaffected. Take a vessel. Inside the space, it doesn't bother what sort of contents you are going to put in. It doesn't say no or yes to anything. You use it, that's all. So when he brought the word new, the only place where he brought this word great void was in the first chapter of In Quest of God. Now when we read this portion, we come to understand, yes, there is a relevance for that. Otherwise, why should he bring that word? Great void. So that all of us will start thinking about the static aspect. Where is relief? Where is rest? That was the heart's cry of Ramdas. The cry was heard, and from the great void came the voice, despair not, trust me. thou shalt be free. And this was the voice of Ram. Afterwards, he has not used the word great void. So first he introduced the cosmic reality as the great void, and the guide and companion as Ram. The director who says, get up, sit down, go here, there, no? While we are, when a play is to be done, there should be a director and an actor. No? The director behind the curtain says, do this, do that, and we act. So in order that we capture this, now he touches and kindles in us that the great void has been introduced, and then the Ram, from that only Ram starts. First he did not say Ram, first he said great void. The cry was heard, and from the great void came the voice, G and V capital. Despair not, trust me, thou shalt be free. And this was the voice of Ram. And then on Ram. So the two aspects which he brings it out in world is God, no? After writing the whole book, lectures are given in the form of lectures of Swami Ramdas in 5 volumes. But this, a synopsis of the whole tour, was dictated by Papa himself. And then in that Papa brings this. From the start to the end, Ramdas felt at every step of this great Master Ram, who was guiding, determining all circumstances and events in his itinerary. Ram, who controls the destiny of all lives, was here mysteriously at work. Ramdas played, he made all the plans looking to the minutest detail and carried them out himself with alertness, skill and care. Ramdas played 2 parts in discharging the great mission with which God entrusted him. First, as an eternal witness of the world drama. A witness who was dispassionate, unaffected, pure, blissful. And secondly, as an actor on the world stage. Ramdas was under the dominating sway and protection of his Almighty Ram. Ramdas, being one with Ram, knew he was everybody and everything. For Ram had granted him the realization that he, Ramdas, and the world are not different. As power, P capital, God prompts and propels all beings and creatures to action. As the static spirit, he witnesses and sanctions all movements in nature, himself remaining ever still, calm, radiant, the support, the illuminator of the visible and the manifest world.
Swamiji, great word and the static are same, don't Swamiji? Great and static.
Yes. The support, the screen and the film, no? In the film there will be crying, or somebody will be crying, somebody will make us cry, somebody will make us laugh, but the screen as such doesn't do anything. The film has got everything, the changing one, the dynamic one. But as a static support, it doesn't. When we look at this screen, everything is calm, quiet, static. So he brought the word in, yes, this is another revelation. Great void, to know that the two aspects, the static and the dynamic aspect. So that there won't be any confusion to us at a later stage. We feel we are thinking, we are acting. How can we say that God is making us to think? God is that question might come. So here he answers. Every thought, every word comes, every thought and every word as a background behind. When we now bring out split words, in between the word there is an interval, there is a what do you call it? Gap. That we have to keep on contemplating. The great void. That is the base from which all these things. There's a beautiful bhajan in Malayalam where he says, ഞാൻ അറിയാതെ നാവിലെ നാദമായി കൂടെ ഇന്നോളം മുകുന്ദൻ. Even I am not aware that you are there in the form of sound. ഞാൻ അറിയാതെ നാവിലെ നാദമായി കൂടെ ഇന്നോളം മുകുന്ദൻ. Oh Lord, you have been with me in the form of sound also. The sound comes from soundless base. The sound cannot come from another base. That is why we call it a sound. When the silence is broken, the sound exists. So even the sound is because of him. Nada Brahman we used to hear. But in a simple way, he makes it. It's a beautiful Malayalam bhajan. You may not be knowing. നീ എന്ന ഗാനത്തെ പാടുവാനുള്ളൊരു പാഴ്മുളം തണ്ടല്ലയോ ഞാൻ. നീ എന്ന നാമത്തെ മർമ്മരം ചെയ്യുന്ന ആലിലത്തുണ്ടല്ലയോ. നിന്റെ കാൽപാദത്തിന് ഓർമ്മയിൽ മാത്രമാണ് എൻ്റെ ഈ ജന്മസഞ്ചാരം. എൻ്റെ ജീവാണുവിൽ ഓരോന്നിലും സദാ നീയൊരാൾ ഗുരുവായൂരപ്പ. ഉണരുമ്പോൾ ആദ്യമൻ കണ്ണിലേക്ക് എത്തുന്ന പുലരിയാണ് അഞ്ജന വർണ്ണൻ. ഉണ്ണുന്നൊരന്നത്തിൽ ഓരോ മണിയിലും ഉണ്ടവൻ നന്ദകിശോരൻ. ഞാനറിയാതെ എൻ നാവിലെ നാദമായി കൂടെ ഇന്നോളം മുകുന്ദൻ. നിദ്ര വരാത്തൊരു പാതിരാവിൽ വന്ന് തട്ടിയുറക്കുന്ന തോഴൻ. ഉരുകുന്ന നേരം പൊഴിക്കുന്ന കണ്ണിലെ ചുടുമീഴി നീരിലും കണ്ണൻ. വനമാല മലരായി ഞാൻ ചിരിക്കാനുള്ള വഴിയേകിടും ഗോപബാലൻ. ഗുരുവെന്ന ഭാവമില്ലാതെ ദിസ് അനദർ വൺ. ഗുരുവെന്ന ഭാവമില്ലാതെ എന്നോട് എപ്പോഴും ശരിയോതിടുന്ന ഗോവിന്ദൻ. Oh, I should not have told like that. No, immediately he reminds us from within. What have you done here now? Even without assuming the role of the boss, asserting as a boss, he silently makes us aware. ഗുരുവെന്ന ഭാവമില്ലാതെ എന്നോട് എപ്പോഴും ശരിയോതിടുന്ന ഗോവിന്ദൻ. മരണത്തിലും വന്ന് മുറുകെ പിടിക്കുന്ന പരം ഏകബന്ധു ശ്രീകാന്തൻ. So we remember this. These are all the things, side dishes God gives us to know it more intimately. That He is there. He is there. So the Nadam. Why we remembered, great void, great void, great void. In the great sound exists in the great void. So he not only he is the great void, he is also the sound. That is why he introduced the word Ram. Ram propels him, to do things. So the dynamic aspect we can say it is Ram. The static aspect we can say it is the great void. This is how he is leading us. Now we should know that it is not an intellectual exercise. And we keep on contemplating deeply about it. Then many shlokas that we have learned previously, it comes to us. Gagana Sadrisham. Gaganam means this void only, space. So then we remember, oh, Acha, you made us to go through the slokas. Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dandvaditam Gagana Sadrisham. Every day Mataji made us to repeat this, to get ourselves connected to great world. She had put it bluntly. She defines Papa like this: the space between the me and the sky, that is Papa. Then she says, she amends, it is not Papa, it is something approximating to the nature characteristic of Papa. So great void has been elaborately discussed by Mataji also.
So the great void can be compared to witness also, isn't it?
Witness also, no?
The witness. That is the witness, It doesn't get affected by anything. It remains as a sakshi. We get some idea when we do this mental chanting of Ram Nam, and when the outgoing tendencies of the minds have been arrested, gradually a stage comes when the chanting is realized, the chanting is heard, the chanting is known. Then immediately the question comes, who is knowing, who is hearing? That is that witness. Sarvadi Sakshibhudam. Bhavaditam Trigunarahidam Sadgurum Tam Namami. So great word today, yes. Probably at the end she brings it out, Papa brings it out very strongly. So probably we have to apply our mind more and more on it. The witness consciousness that has been brought out here in the form of great void. And at the same time, it doesn't mean the contents are not his. Contents are also he.
Swamiji, Swamiji, this great void is also one of the Panch Bhutas, Prithvi, Jal, Vayu, Agni, Akash.
Elements. Is it the 5 elements? Is it connected?
There we say about space, Akash.
Starts with.
But in which everything is included. Actually, it is not separate, In great void, everything is included. Sun, moon, everything.
In the great void, this Akash is also included.
Akash also is included. Akash ke
That Gita, what is that?
Guruji ka Swamiji? No.
That Avadhuta Gita.
Avadhuta Gita. In Avadhuta Gita, one chapter is exclusively on this Gaganam. Every sloka will end with Gaganopamoham. It is like Gaganam, it is like Gaganam, it is like Gaganam. Then why do you weep? Why do you laugh? Like that it will ask questions. When everything is happening in this as a part of it, why do you get upset? So that means witness not getting affected at all. Just like an idol in a temple. The idol represents the great witness.
The great, can you explain something great?
Grace. Grace.
How to finish grace also?
We have to keep on praying to him and becoming aware of what all we have been blessed with. That could be one of the methods to know his grace. First of all, we list out what all we have been blessed with. First of all, you gave me a human birth. From there we start. If the human birth has not been given to me, how will I know that you are there? Very often that sloka comes to our mind, the Vivek Chudamani. Durlabam trayamevai tad. Devanugraha hetukam. Manushyattvam mumukshatvam mahavurusha samshaya. So Manushyattvam is a gift. So we start from there. We have forgotten this. We thought we were born to our parents and we have developed. Parents helped us, society developed us, and we are what we are. And with our intelligence, we are functioning. With our with capabilities, we are functioning. We never thought that right from the human birth, this me, as Nisargadatta Maharaj beautifully says, the present me in us was not consulted before we were born. The simple truth, that reveals the present me in us were not consulted. Can I make you born to these parents? Did anybody consult us? Do we remember anybody consulting us? No. So that was a great gift given to us. Only through the platform of human birth we can go to the higher realms. So to know grace, we should start from that starting point. And then you gave me everything. You provided through Mother Nature everything for me to exist. If the Mother Nature is not there, I cannot exist even for a second. Like that, we keep on thinking during our past moments so that we become aware what all He has given, what all He has given, what all He has given. And that gives a tendency, or we get habituated in remembering the bounteous gifts He has been giving to us right from the moment we started knowing we are. In other words, we become aware of His grace. Each one has to develop, everything. Just we always used to share, during the corona, then only we came to know the value of oxygen. Oxygen plant, 30, 40, 50 lakhs. Ashram was also about to set up an oxygen plant for the government hospital. And luckily, corona is not there now. Then only we understand how costly it is. Even to that apparatus, they were charging a monthly rent of 5,000 rupees. Then you calculate throughout your lifetime how much we have paid to God. Simple oxygen, simple. Do we need any other thing to know His grace? Then we look at the tree, plant kingdom, how many types of vegetables, how many types of fruits, what are different tastes. And for this oxygen, how He brought the plant kingdom. Our puny intellect cannot gauge all these things. So these are some of the ways by which we become aware of. Whenever the ego says, I have done, immediately we have to put down this. Shut up, sit down there. You were not there when you were born. You started developing after enjoying all these things. That is why Papa used that word self-asserting. You remember the word self-asserting. Ram means love. To realize this great truth, we who through ignorance feel as separate individuals should submit ourselves to the will and working of the great power. By a complete surrender to the will of Ram, we find ourselves in a state of complete identification who is in us. Somewhere he mentions, No, first in article itself. First article itself. Here, this divine love can be attained by humbling ourselves to such a degree as to totally subdue our egoism, our self-assertion as a separate individual existence. It is covered in the first article, which we have conveniently forgotten. So the first and foremost thing is to know that we are always blessed with His grace. Whether we know it or not, whether we acknowledge it or not, whether we become grateful or not, He is still pouring. So to become aware of all what has been given to us, that will lead us to His grace, and we become constantly aware of it. More of it, we will take it up tomorrow. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai.